Greetings, fellow nerds, and welcome to the 4th episode of Journey into Marvel, the only show on the internet where I read too many freaking comics. This is actually the first episode that I've recorded since I officially launched the podcast a few weeks ago. You can find it at journeyintomarvel.libsyn.com. That's journeyintomarvel.libsyn.com. It's on YouTube and SoundCloud, soon to be on Google Play Music and iTunes. Now, if you like what you hear, please subscribe and share with your fellow geeks. Alright, let's get to what you guys are actually here for, the comics. So, first up, we've got Daredevil number 48. The cover on this one looks like January of 1969, and it was written by Stan Lee himself and art by Gene Colan. So right away, I'm going to preface this one by saying that I had a lot of fun reading this. This was an awesome issue. It's all about a Marvel superhero against this big, bombastic, ridiculous villain, just the way it should be. There's none of that frilly, emotional, weird, trying to tell a deep, heartfelt story like in the last issue of Daredevil. This one is just classic 1960s Marvel action. So this one starts off with Daredevil roaming the city at night, looking for something to do. He overhears some crooks talking about how they've hired Stiltman to knock Foggy Nelson out of the race for district attorney, because apparently he's doing that now instead of Nelson and Murdoch with Matt Murdock. So anyway, because Stiltman, he plans on ambushing Foggy at his office, Matt Murdock really doesn't have any choice but to kick him and Karen out of there for the night so he can just wait for Stiltman to show up as Daredevil. So Stiltman shows up and starts this awesome 10-page long battle with Daredevil. Half the entire book. It's just great. For some reason, Stiltman doesn't seem to have feet in this issue. I don't know. Maybe he never did, and I just didn't notice. But I guess that doesn't really matter. But anyway, Daredevil wins this fight, obviously, and Foggy also wins his DA position, which is pretty cool, leaving his future with Nelson and Murdoch a little foggy. Okay, sorry about that. I tried to inject a little humor into this here. This issue, this is exactly why I enjoy reading 1960s Marvel comics. Sure, the story isn't the best, and a little too much of the book is kind of taken up by that fight scene, but it was just fun to read. I had a good time with it. So there's fun art. It's a fun battle, fun villain. I like Stiltman, no matter what you want to say. This is a 4 out of 5 issue for me. So next, I read this trilogy of Doctor Strange comics. This is issues 175 through 177. And now, all 3 of these were written by Roy Thomas and drawn by Gene Colan, which I feel like he's been doing the art for like the majority of comics that I've been reading. But I really like him here in Doctor Strange. He really nails all those like weird, psychedelic, extra-dimensional things that the series is famous for. And he might even be a little bit better than Steve Ditko, unpopular opinion. Maybe I said that already in a previous podcast. I don't really know. But Gene Colan, awesome at Doctor Strange. Check it out for yourself sometime. So also, since there's 3 issues here, I'm going to just talk about and rate all 3 of them just together to save on time. Sort of like I did, I think it was in the last episode with like 3 Submariner comics. I'm just gonna talk about them, rate them all as a big group. So, getting into the story for this one, this trilogy has Doctor Strange and his magician lady friend from another dimension, Clea, facing off against the Sons of Satanish. I think I'm saying that right, Satanish. So this cult group is they're first seen observing Doctor Strange and Clea as they're walking around New York. They eventually end up summoning Satanish himself, which is a big devil-looking guy. Exactly what he sounds like Satan, pretty much. So Satanish gives this cult additional supernatural powers. So using this power, they're able to find and capture Clea using the cab driver that dropped her off at her own place. So although I don't know why she was living somewhere other than with Doctor Strange in the Sanctum Sanctorum. But anyway, that's kind of besides the point. The first issue ends with Asmodeus, who is the leader of the Sons of Satanish, leading Clea and claiming that he is her friend. So, using the memories of the cab driver and the Eye of Agamotto, Strange is able to locate the guys who captured Clea, only to be encased in this like compact cube dimension of nothing. It's basically just this black cube of nothingness that Doctor Strange is trapped in. It's kind of weird. But of course he's able to escape, makes his way home, and he brushes up on some spells, reading from the Book of the Vishanti, that sounds better. We'll go with that. So suddenly, Clea reappears next to Doctor Strange and claims to have just straight up escaped. The telephone rings, and it's Strange's old colleague, Dr. Benton. I think he was in a maybe last issue or a couple issues ago, something like that anyway, talking to Doctor Strange and asking him if he wants to be a surgical consultant, which of course he doesn't. He's a wizard fighting supernatural bad guys, I guess. Why would he want to be a surgical consultant? But anyway, so while he's on the phone, Clea comes after Doctor Strange with a knife and steals the Book of the Vishanti and runs away. So it turns out that she was hypnotized and commanded by Asmodeus to bring the book back to him. Doctor Strange goes after her, but he gets overpowered, stripped of his cloak of levitation and his mystical amulet, and then Doctor Strange and Clea are exiled to this alternate dimension and left there to die. And that's where the second book ends. So the third one then starts off with them attempting to survive in this deadly new dimension. So, of course, this is where Gene Colan's art is really awesome. You guys got to check it out. Like, he really shows kind of how vivid and threatening this alternate dimension really is. So, soon Doctor Strange reveals that he still has the Eye of Agamotto, despite Asmodeus stealing his amulet. I didn't really understand that. So, we cut back to Asmodeus. He's reading from the Book of the Vishanti in order to find this spell to bring out the rise of Ymir and Surtur, who are this massive frost giant and fire demon, respectively. You might have seen Surtur in the new Thor Ragnarok trailer or in the movie itself, if you're listening to this later on. He's that big devil fire demon looking guy. So anyway, the Book of the Vishanti mysteriously vanishes from Asmodeus' hands and is transported to the Ancient One for his care. Somehow, I guess I wasn't really clear on that. Somehow it just got transported to him. But Asmodeus absorbs all the power from all of his disciples, which kills them, and he turns himself into this like facsimile of Stephen Strange and flies off to find the Ancient One. So back in the Dark Dimension then, the real Doctor Strange, he's caught by this plant creature that also turns its victims into plants, which is kind of weird, but hey, it's a different dimension. I don't know the biology there. So the Eye of Agamotto that he somehow has dashes off to the real world, brings back the Cloak of Levitation, and somehow Doctor Strange stored most of his power in the cloak and then hid it just in case he was captured. It's kind of a cool twist, but how did he know he was going to get captured? And like, why did he store away most of his power? That didn't make any sense. After regaining all of his powers anyway, Doctor Strange, he transforms himself into this like anonymous version of himself, I guess. He's like wearing a costume more than he usually is. He's got this like slick blue face mask that hides all of his features. So wearing this weird costume then, he returns to Earth, finds Asmodeus, who's already tricked the Ancient One into giving him the book back. But before he's defeated, he manages to perform that spell that summons Ymir and Surtur, and then he's actually revealed, spoiler alert, to be Dr. Benton, that annoying doctor who kept contacting Strange to ask him to be a surgical consultant. kind of a weird twist, but it was just like, I wasn't expecting it, so I guess it worked. But it looks like in future issues then, Doctor Strange and his weird new costume thing are going to have to deal with these two powerful beings that Dr. Benton summoned right at the end of the third issue here. You could probably tell by this extremely long synopsis that I really enjoyed these 3 issues. The story was told on this like epic scale with huge consequences. I mean, summoning these two, this frost giant and this fire demon, like that's huge. But as I mentioned earlier, the art was on point. Gene Colan, I've sung his praises more than probably anybody else, even more than Stan Lee. Really, my only gripe with these books was that that costume change that Doctor Strange did at the end. You gotta like Google it or something. Look this up. I wish podcasts were more of a visual format so I could kind of pop this up on a screen or something. But you got to see it. He almost like looks like a palette swapped Vision or something. Kind of. It's hard to explain, but just check it out. My theory for why he's doing this is that Doctor Strange wasn't selling enough, so they kind of tried to revamp the character to align him more with their other superheroes. I guess, I don't know, that's my best theory here. But all things considered, I had a lot of fun reading these, that's the most important part when you're reading cheesy comics from the 1960s. You gotta have fun with them, right? And these were fun, so just like the Daredevil issue, this was a 4 out of 5 trilogy for me. When I looked at the cover for this next issue, which is Marvel Superheroes number 19, I thought, this could be pretty good. Well, I was extremely wrong. This issue focuses on Kazar, who is Marvel's resident Tarzan, or kind of more like George of the Jungle in this case. This story was written by Arnold Drake and some guy named Steve Parkhouse, which I've never heard of. I don't think he's written anything else. If he has, that's my mistake, and I guess we'll see if he writes anything else in the future here. And it was drawn by George Tuska. So this plot revolves around Kazar's brother, the Plunderer, who is attempting to steal Kazar's half of this like code thing to open a vault full of antimetal left by their father. I'm not really 100% on what antimetal is supposed to do, but probably affecting metal somehow, I guess. Which, for the record, I think the Plunderer already had some antimetal when he fought Daredevil a while back. Whatever. There's also this big yellow fat guy from the Savage Lands, because apparently his tribe knows where to find this antimetal. So Kazar heads to the Savage Lands, fights these yellow people, fights some badly drawn reptile people, and fights his own brother, the Plunderer. So to put it bluntly, as you can probably tell, I did not enjoy this issue at all. It was pretty bad. Kazar's a cool character, and Marvel could honestly do a lot of cool things with him, but this is not the story to do it. At least in that Black Knight issue, we got a little more of like the lore and backstory behind the character, but this issue is pretty much the definition of a filler side story. Marvel Superheroes has done a lot of cool things in the past, like introducing Captain Marvel and the Guardians of the Galaxy, and even one issue they gave Medusa her own issue, like her own time in the spotlight away from the rest of the Inhumans, which was super cool. Now with this one and the Black Knight issue, I'm kind of starting to dread reading them. I'm definitely going to give Marvel Superheroes number 19 a 1 out of 5. Do not recommend unless you are looking for a lot of cringes. Don't read it. But next, we're going to take a look at a pretty cool book. This is Captain America number 110. This was written by Stan Lee and drawn by Jim Steranko. So the cover for this one is going to get you really hyped for an awesome issue. We've got the Hulk crashing through a wall and reaching down for what appears to be Bucky Barnes while Captain America looks on. Now this got me hooked. What does the Hulk have to do with Bucky? Believe me when I say that the payoff is not as good as you think. Right at the start of this issue, we have the Hulk bursting through a wall, just like he does on the cover, and Captain America rushing into battle. But somehow, suddenly, there's like these soldiers everywhere, and they manage to knock Hulk down with some big cannon thing, which doesn't even make sense to me. How can they knock the Hulk down? Come on. Let's be real here. Anyway, Rick Jones rushes onto the scene, and of course he ends up getting knocked down by the Hulk when he's trying to jump away. So Captain America takes Rick back to his house to recover. Upon waking, Rick has this brilliant idea to put on Bucky's old costume and try and surprise Cap. He found this costume in the closet, and he thinks it's going to be a good idea to put it on for Captain America. And he's tried to pull this crap before in an earlier issue, and it just made Cap freak the hell out. So I don't know why he wants to try it again. And again, Captain America is pretty upset initially anyway, but then he decides to just let Rick go on and wear the costume, and they actually go on an adventure down into some sewers. And they're investigating some strange occurrences, apparently. I don't remember exactly what they're investigating here. But they end up stumbling into this big secret Hydra plot to contaminate the city's water supply. Sounds just like a frickin' Bond villain or something. But after this intense, action-packed battle that includes power vests, disguises, and even flame bazookas, Captain America needs to make a choice to either save Rick or go after Madam Hydra. And of course we know which one he picks. He's got to go save his partner because he's Captain America. And Hydra lives to fight another day, which is good because I like Hydra. They're a good team to fight against, both in Captain America and in Nick Fury Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. So this was a pretty good issue. It had a ton of action with just enough of the story to keep me interested. The beginning was kind of dumb, I guess, with the Hulk was kind of cool, but the whole Rick Jones putting on the Bucky costume again, I just don't really like it that much. But the rest of the issue is really good, so I guess it makes up for it. The cover actually made me think the Hulk was going to play this like big role in this issue, and I was kind of excited for it, but he was just this conduit for Rick Jones to get involved, and then he just disappears for the rest. As for the art, though, I was actually really impressed with this. Normally, I don't really care so much for Jim Steranko's work. When he worked on Nick Fury, it was like really too psychedelic and abstract. Like, I feel like if he worked on Doctor Strange, it would even be a little too much. However, he really shines in this more straightforward book, Captain America. I couldn't really decide if I wanted to give this one a 3 or a 4 out of 5. So I'm going to go with just a straight 3.5. And I had a good time with this one. There were a couple of flaws that kept it from reaching its potential, but overall, it was really good, and I would recommend it. Focusing on the Hulk now, after seeing him for just a couple pages in that last issue, I was kind of craving some Hulk action, and luckily, I've got one next. So, The Incredible Hulk, number 104, does not disappoint. This was written by Gary Friedrich, I think? Gary Friedrich. We'll go with that. And drawn by Marie Severin. She's really good. I like Marie Severin. She does some good work on the Hulk. I don't know if she's drawn anything else. Maybe I've missed it, but she does some good work on the Hulk. So on the cover here, we see the Rhino, the Spider-Man villain, racing towards an unconscious Hulk. And if that doesn't get you hyped, I don't know what's gonna. So this one starts with a captured Bruce Banner. He apparently got captured in the last issue. I think it's been a while since I've read an Incredible Hulk, but so he got captured in the last issue. He of course gets sedated so he won't Hulk out again. The military just doesn't want to deal with that apparently. So we cut to these mad scientist guys who are giving the Rhino back his powers and his indestructible suit after being stopped by Spider-Man and sitting in prison for months apparently. And just for good measure, he's blasted by some gamma rays too, probably make him strong enough to fight the Hulk, which of course he wants to do for some reason, just because maybe he knows he's in an issue of the Incredible Hulk instead of Spider-Man. So the Rhino finds the armored truck that's transporting Banner, smashes it, and captures him and Betty Ross, and drags them onto a helicopter. And that's a pretty bad move because, of course, he becomes the Hulk and escapes. Just destroys the helicopter. I I think he gets Betty out of there too. So the Hulk and the Rhino then have this pretty sweet fight. And the Rhino actually like holds his own for quite a while, which is really cool to see. This like classic Marvel villain actually standing up to the Hulk and doing pretty all right. So the Hulk smashes this truck full of jet fuel on top of the Rhino and then jumps in and saves him from the fiery explosion. Which, like, okay, what'd you think was going to happen if you were going to throw a tanker full of jet fuel on him? But anyway, the Rhino ultimately dies from his injuries, which, I don't think he's going to stay dead because obviously this is a comic book and nobody ever stays dead for long in the comics. So we actually end this issue with the Hulk capturing Betty Ross and running away. So again, this was a fun issue to read. I feel like this run, except for Marvel Superheroes number 19, has actually had some really fun issues. I didn't think the Rhino was going to be able to come close to matching the Hulk in a fight, but it was still pretty entertaining to see him try. It didn't really have much in the way of like plot advancement or character development, but this is a Hulk comic, and we kind of just want to see him smashing stuff and beating up the bad guys, which we get a ton of here. So I'm going to give The Incredible Hulk 104 a 4 out of 5. Normally I'd still have a few comics to talk about here, but I got ridiculously distracted by the Infinity Trilogy, which is, if you don't know, it's this set of 3 6-issue miniseries dealing with the Infinity Stones, starring Thanos, Adam Warlock, and pretty much every Marvel hero ever. So the 3 series, they're called Infinity Gauntlet, Infinity War, and Infinity Crusade. And I believe they came out in 1991, 92, and 93 respectively. I'm not going to go into a super huge amount of detail about these, but I figured I should maybe say a little something about them since they ate up so much of my time. First up is Infinity Gauntlet. I feel like this one might be closer to the plot of next summer's Infinity War movie. Not exactly, but sort of borrowing some plot elements from it. So we've got Thanos, the big bad purple dude. He's from Titan. He's acquired all of the Infinity Stones as well as the Infinity Gauntlet itself. So basically this means that he's a god. You put all of the Infinity Stones into the gauntlet and you're a god. You can do whatever you want. And Thanos does do whatever he wants. He, in order to impress Lady Death, who he's in love with for some reason, not really sure why, maybe that was more in his backstory, but that really doesn't matter. In order to impress her, he instantly makes half of all of the life in the entire universe just disappear. Straight up disappear, including a lot of superheroes on Earth. So the rest of the superheroes, they team up with Adam Warlock and some other, like, of the cosmic badasses, like the big cosmic guys like Eternity and Galactus and all of those guys. And they eventually stop Thanos. Spoiler alert, the good guys win here. Adam Warlock then takes all the stones, and that's the end of the story, right? Wrong, actually. That's just the end of Infinity Gauntlet. So, in order to use the stones responsibly, Warlock actually, removes the good and the evil parts from his body and separates the stones. He gives each one, one to each member of his Infinity Watch, which is I'm not gonna remember all of them. Pip, the little troll guy, Gamora, Moondragon, Drax. There's probably more, but I can't remember right now. This leads us to Infinity War, the second of the trilogy, where Adam Warlock's evil side, the Magus, steals the stones for himself, and he unleashes just a ton of evil doppelgangers of all the Marvel heroes and attempts to obviously take over the universe, because that's what every bad guy wants, right? So all of the Earth-based heroes, again, team up with Adam Warlock, and surprisingly, Thanos in this one, to take down the Magus. There's also this whole really awesome subplot featuring Doctor Doom and Kang the Conqueror that is probably the best part of this whole little miniseries. And a ton of cool stuff happens in this series, so I don't want to spoil too much of this one. This was my favorite of the 3, so I would recommend checking out the Infinity War miniseries right away. The last of these is Infinity Crusade, and this one doesn't have a whole lot to do with the Infinity Gems, but it's pretty cool anyway. So, when Adam Warlock's evil side split off and became the Magus, his good side split off also and became the Goddess. And she's just this, like, golden goddess, basically. Her whole deal is that she wants to end all of the evil in the universe. That sounds good, right? And she actually does that for a while. She stops even this, like, war between the Skrulls and some other aliens just by willing it into existence. And she does that using, like, 30 cosmic cubes, or cosmic containment units, I think they call them, all formed together into this giant cosmic egg that she sits in. I don't know if maybe that's supposed to be a metaphor or something. I don't know. It's just a gigantic shining egg that she sits in. But anyway, she brainwashes all of the superheroes who are religious or spiritual, including, the Invisible Woman, Silver Surfer, Thor, and of course Captain America's there. The remaining heroes still on Earth, again with the help from Thanos, discover her plan to end the universe, and they have a big battle in order to stop it. This one was also a really fun miniseries to read, and the ending, the way they actually stop the Goddess, is really, really cool. So check that out for sure. And before reading this trilogy, I didn't really know much about Adam Warlock or the Infinity Watch or Thanos. Actually, I think I read the issue of Fantastic Four where Adam Warlock is born with his, like, chrysalis and everything. I think I read that one. I'll have to go back and check that out. But anyway, I wasn't going to rate these, but I figured, what the hell? I read them, so I might as well talk about them. Might as well rate them. I really, really like these. The whole Infinity Trilogy, all 3 parts, get a perfect 5 out of 5. Loved it. 5 out of 5. All right, so that's all I have for this episode, but I can already tell you that next time we're going to start things off with some awesome Incredible Hulk comics. I think there's like 3 or 4 of them even, maybe. So I'll probably do that thing where I talk about them all at once again. But we got a lot of Incredible Hulk. There's also probably some Submariner in there, I think, too. And some other cool stuff. So you can email me with any questions, comments, constructive criticism, deconstructive criticism, whatever you want to do, at journeyintomarvel@gmail.com. And as always, you guys have been great, and I'm going to go read some more comics.